All right, everybody. Well, happy to be back. Welcome to Talk with Doc. This is our first one for 2021. I hope everyone had a wonderful Christmas and Happy New Year. Today, I'm really excited to be talking with everyone. We've got a good friend of mine, Barb Stanley, and we are talking on compassion fatigue today. Something that is very important to talk about because not many talk about it. And any of us who deal with caring for individuals, and especially in ministry, can easily experience compassion fatigue. And for me, I didn't even know I was experiencing it until I was deep into it. And so that's why I think it's so great for us to talk about it today. So Barb, welcome. Why don't you just take a minute and let everyone know who you are and tell us all about yourself.
Okay, well, it's great to be here. Thanks for having me, Doc. I'm Barb Stanley. I have been in ministry for about 10 years. I worked for close to 7 years at my church as an assistant to the lead pastor, which is church administration and ministry mobilization, and pretty much one of those roles where you wear every hat possible and you see everything possible. You ever worked in the church world, you know exactly what I'm talking about.
Exactly.
So I have been a special needs ministry leader in our church since 2014 when we started a special needs ministry in our church. And over the years, we had a lot of other churches reaching out to us asking, how did we start our ministry? What tips could we give them? Which really has led to what I'm doing now, which is in June, we launched an online ministry called Wonderful Works Special Needs Ministry. And this is an online church resource platform where we have like 5-minute training videos, downloadable resources, and group discussion, teaching churches how to serve children with disabilities and other life challenges. We have a Facebook group. If anyone is interested in joining, we have 185 people and growing each day in it. And it's just been a really exciting time of growing a community that really wants to learn how to be an inclusive church.
Yeah, that's wonderful. And where again are you located?
I'm in Columbus, Ohio, and our ministry, Wonderful Works, is online. It's Wonderful Works.
Yeah. Yep, makes it easy for everybody.
Yep.
to be able to participate with it. All right, well, let's go ahead and jump right in. And first off, just want to say, anyone who's here with us on Zoom, you can go ahead, put any questions you have in the chat or the Q&A, and we'll get that. Anyone who's watching via Facebook Live, go ahead, put your questions or comments in our chat, and we'll get those for you, and happy to answer any of your questions as we go through. There's no question off limits. So ask anything and we'll be happy to get to those for you. But let's just start right off. The biggest question probably is, what exactly is compassion fatigue? How do we know what that is?
Well, compassion fatigue is what they call the cost of caring. And so what it really is, it's the physical or emotional exhaustion that's caused by continuously supporting people who are going through suffering. So it is a professional risk in the helping fields, including ministry, and things like nursing. There's a lot of compassion fatigue in nursing, and and counseling and social work and all those different fields. And so it's something I really feel like you hit the nail on the head, Doc, when you mentioned you had it and you didn't realize it. I think that is really the case for most people. It kind of creeps up on you. Mm-hmm. So how do you know you have it? One, if you are in the helping field, in whatever regard that's in, you're at risk for it. So you really need to be aware of what that looks like and what it feels like. A lot of the symptoms really kind of mimic symptoms of stress, like weight loss or weight gain, headaches, irritability, things like that. But the one that really is unique to compassion fatigue is loss of empathy. So if you are someone that's working with people who are going through trauma or are suffering, and you find yourself kind of feeling disconnected more and more over time, that is a big sign that you are suffering from compassion fatigue. Was that part of your experience?
Yeah. So for me, when I found myself suffering. And I've, obviously I'm a little unique. I've had a lot of different backgrounds now,
Mhm.
being in the medical profession, and then in ministry. Honestly, I never really experienced in the medical profession, with it, because I was always able to find downtime, where I could recoup.
Mhm.
And what's different that I've learned,
Mhm.
the hardest switch I had was going from my medical career to my ministry career,
Mhm.
because in medicine, when I was done, I was done. My
Right.
work didn't come home with me unless I was on call, but that wasn't every night. Ministry,
Mhm.
it's 24/7.
That's right.
It's always with you. You
Yes.
don't shut off.
Mhm.
And so it's harder for you to get that break away. And then, with my job, I also did a ton of counseling.
Yes.
And
Mhm.
so working with families and then counseling on top of that, while, I think I did a good job with it, and
Mhm.
I was enjoying it. It drains my tank.
Yeah.
And it was exactly that. I found myself,
Mhm.
you know, being more fatigued,
Yep.
being a little bit more irritable. And then I would all of a sudden find myself not having as much empathy as I normally do.
Mhm.
Someone said, I'm like, I'd get these thoughts in my head that I'm
Mhm.
like, oh my gosh, where did that come from?
Yeah.
I don't dare let that out of my head,
Right.
go away.
Yeah.
And then that's where I'm realizing, I kind of took a little bit of break. I'm like, I just need to kind of regather myself, and realize what's going on. So, and it does, it really, for me, it snuck up on me without me really realizing it.
Mhm.
It's not because I was doing anything wrong.
Nope.
And it's usually because you're doing the right things. Um, and a lot of times we may be in positions that, for me, counseling, while, you know, I'll do it when I need to do it, it doesn't fill my tank.
Mhm.
And so if in ministry, there's always going to be something in ministry, in my experience, that
Mhm.
some things fill your tank. You really love doing it, and that gives you the joy. And we
Mhm.
need to find those
Yeah.
things. But then there's those things that drain us,
Yeah.
that we just don't like. That might be administrative work for somebody.
Mhm.
It might be making phone calls to new
Yeah.
people.
Yeah.
Um, it depends on what that is for everyone. Everyone's different. Well, if we focus too much time, especially on that one area that drains our tank, my experience, that's when our risk for compassion fatigue takes off.
Yeah.
Because if we're not filling our tank
Mhm.
as much as we're draining it, there's nothing left for us.
Yeah. You've hit on a lot of different points that we're going to cover today. So thank you.
Good.
So we got a good example.
All right.
No,
Good.
but
I've
let's
set the table.
You
Hey,
did. So let's backtrack a little bit. I want to go back to one of the
perfect.
first things you said. Because really today, I've really been praying about this and thinking about this. And this talk about compassion fatigue is really for anyone in the helping fields. But in my heart, I want to talk to pastors. So in my background, I worked with a pastor and pastoral staff. I also have done counseling too. So I've been on that side too. But the thing about being in ministry, and especially for lead pastors, is I think there is that guilt that you talked about. Like, I shouldn't be losing my empathy, like, or thinking like I should be stronger than this. My faith should be stronger than this. What is wrong, and not wanting to admit it. And we have to know that pastors are people too. We're all human. People in ministry are people too. And you don't need to feel guilty or ashamed if you start feeling the stress or start feeling that loss of empathy. You need to realize that is a moment you need to start paying attention to investing in yourself, in giving yourself grace, and reaching out. So
So true. So
yeah,
true.
and I just really have been thinking about this a lot. And the other thing that's really hard with being in ministry and also with counseling is not only do you feel like I shouldn't be here, but a lot of the things that are really weighing on you are things you can't share.
Mm.
Because as a pastor or a counselor, you are making connections with people you care about, and they're telling you things that are breaking your heart.
Oh,
Things
absolutely.
that maybe when you go to sleep at night, it's like dancing around in your head. But because it's confidential, you can't tell anyone. So that adds like another layer. And so, what I really think is important, and I really think this is really, really important, is you have to find people that you can just reach out to and say, I just need you to know that what I do is hard sometimes, and sometimes it's hard on me. and I can't really talk about it, but would it be okay if I text you if I'm having a bad day and you can just pray for me?
Mm,
Because I think a lot of times we put a lot of too much thought in how to help ourselves. And we feel like, well, I need to find this friend who can talk to me for hours and, really I can get everything out or whatever. And I think especially for men, that is hard to find.
right.
And I think we don't always have to find that. So if you're a man who wants to be there for their buddy, but maybe isn't the person that can have a real compassionate conversation for a long time, still reach out to them, especially your pastors, your ministry leaders, and just say, hey, I see you. I appreciate what you do, and I understand it's hard. Just text me if you ever just want me to sit there with you or pray for you. Because really, just having someone, knowing someone cares about you is the most important thing.
That's huge. That's huge.
It really is.
That's great advice.
Mhm.
So let's back up,
Mhm.
a little bit here, and great points here with that. But and we've touched a little bit, but let's dig in a little bit more. Just who's at risk, with all of this. We've mentioned
Yeah.
some of that, but
Yeah.
let's talk a little bit more about who's at risk.
Well, who's at risk is anyone in the helping field. So that's like the medical field, first responders, counselors, social workers, teachers these days, pastors, anyone who is really there to support others who are struggling. There are some people who are a little bit more at risk than that are people who are new in the field, because a lot of times when people have been seasoned for a while, they kind of learn coping skills along the way. But when you first dive in, you're just like, oh my word, what just happened, and then also people who've had a lot of personal trauma that's unresolved in their own lives, that can sometimes trigger some things that make it harder. So those are some of the type of things. And then right now, the truth is everyone is at risk, because on top of just having the professional risk of being in the field, everyone in the world right now is experiencing this low level trauma every day from the pandemic and the lifestyle changes and the political mess and everything that's happening. We're all at a deeper level of risk right now.
Right. The one little caveat I want to throw in real quick, and make one little distinction, is when it comes to parents and caregivers.
Mhm.
And that's a little bit different.
Yes.
We actually had a talk a few weeks
Yeah.
ago, one of our last talks in 2020, and you can go back to our YouTube page, watch that. We had a whole talk on caregiver fatigue.
Yes. Mhm.
And these are related. They are
Mhm.
similar, but they're different. And so
Yeah.
when we're talking about compassion fatigue,
Mhm.
really eliminating the parents and
Yes.
caregivers out of this, because that's
Yeah.
different. So
That's
this
right.
is going to be more just like, you're saying, Barb,
Mhm.
it's those who are caring for, or not caring, but helping work
Mhm.
with the individuals, and helping treat, helping provide
Yeah.
services, and that. So it's those who are doing the services, not necessarily doing all the, 24/7 caregiving.
That
Of them.
is exactly right. Yeah. So there are some similarities, because I think, it can be heavy in both areas. And sometimes you may lose your empathy in both areas too, because it's just, you get overwhelmed. We are people and we get overwhelmed. But really, compassion fatigue is for professionals. And what's really important about it is if you catch it early, you can do some things to kind of get it in check, because it's a normal part of being in the helping field. But if you don't catch it early, then it can lead to burnout.
Mm.
Okay, and so now I have done a lot of research on compassion fatigue, because I just graduated from grad school, and this is what I did my capstone project on. But there's a lot of the experts in the field of compassion fatigue don't exactly agree on every definition of it. But the difference really between compassion fatigue and burnout is that burnout is when you can just change your situation and feel better. So oh, I'm just going to quit my job and I'm going to go get a different job. And now I don't have that heaviness anymore. I don't feel exhausted. Compassion fatigue is kind of with you all the time, and you have to dig a little deeper to kind of get out of it.
Good point. I've heard a term, I'd like to see if you could help unpack it for us, and that's collective trauma. And I know that goes along with the compassion fatigue here. So could you just kind of address the collective trauma and how that relates, and what exactly that is?
Well, I can give that my best shot, but I did not do my capstone project on that. So collective trauma, from what I understand, is when we're all kind of going through the same thing. kind of like we are right now with this pandemic and everything that 2020 has thrown at us, and the division in our nation, with especially on social media where people are like, so angry with each other. I think we're all collectively in a low level of trauma. And what's tough about that is it's sometimes, like you said, you don't really realize what it's doing to you, because it's not like one big thing that happens to you personally. But it's really important to understand when we are in a collective trauma, we really are at more risk to get compassion fatigue and other mental health issues. So we got to take extra better care of ourselves.
Right. All right. So back to the symptoms. You already were talking about the symptoms.
Yeah.
Again, great point. It's not the same as burnout with that. And I think that's a big thing to make the point in. I think one other big thing, it's a lot easier to see compassion fatigue in others than it is in yourself. We always have those blinders on ourselves. And again, I agree completely with you on men are always going to be harder with this. Just because I'm speaking as a man, we've got that, I don't know what it is. Maybe it's that macho mindset that I can handle anything. I'm a man, I've got to power through this. And the fear of looking weak.
Right.
Men don't want to appear weak. And
That's
the
right.
fear that compassion fatigue is a sign of being weak.
Mm-hmm.
Any men out there listening today, that is a lie.
Yes.
That is the enemy speaking to you, because it's not a sign of weakness.
No.
Actually, it's just part of life that happens with this. And the strength is actually admitting it and hitting it head on and addressing it and taking care of it.
Yeah.
So we've kind of talked about a lot of the symptoms, and the other thing that's important to remember is symptoms are a little different for everybody. You don't have to have all of them, and so it's just noticing what they are. But let's say now we have someone out there who, hey, Barb, I'm experiencing some of these things you're talking about. Maybe I am dealing with compassion fatigue and I don't even realize it.
Yeah.
I had never heard of compassion fatigue until this talk today.
Yeah.
What do I do? What steps do I take next?
Well, there's a couple different things. So if you are really severely feeling compassion fatigue to the point where you're starting to get depression or PTSD, call a counselor, get professional help, talk to your boss, maybe take some time off. But if you're kind of just feeling like I'm starting to get there are some things you can do that will make it better. So obviously we'd have to figure out our boundaries, our work-life boundaries, like you mentioned before, and give ourselves downtime. And that is trickier now that everyone's from home. So you really need to figure out, what is it? When do I have time to decompress? You need to understand that it's normal. So if you start feeling this way, you don't have to carry guilt or shame on it. Definitely want to spend time with God, take it to prayer. And you want to, reach out to your colleagues, your coworkers and friends. And we're going to talk in a minute about the 4 things you can do to help prevent it. But before we get there, I want to tell you this. One of the best things to do if you're starting to get compassion fatigue is called task-focused coping. And what that means is you do things that will make your situation better. So for instance, let's say you're a counselor and you haven't done your progress notes, or you're a pastor and you haven't scheduled a meeting, you don't want to do scheduling. When you put those things off and off and off, then it keeps the weight gets longer and longer and bigger. So if you just go ahead and get those things done out of the way, that helps you have more energy to deal with the compassion fatigue and deal with the people who are suffering.
Yeah, that's good. And I think you may have some slides too that you may want to share here at some point. I know we've got some people who are also visual learners.
Yes, I have some. I'll see if I can. Let me see if I can get it up. Technology is not my best thing, but we'll try.
No, I'm sure you got it.
Okay, you would think so. Hold on. Okay. Actually, Doc, do you have them?
I do.
Why don't you, would you mind putting them up?
Sure, let me.
I appreciate it. because we can kind of go over looking at the things that you can do. And then we're going to talk about compassion satisfaction, which is actually the opposite of compassion fatigue and is well known to be a preventative, protective for compassion fatigue. While you're looking for those, let me tell you a little bit about compassion satisfaction.
Some strange reason it's not letting me share now.
Yeah, that's okay. I had them up, but then I accidentally lost it. So we'll get it figured out.
You go ahead, talk, and I'll keep trying to get it up. I apologize.
Okay. So when I was in grad school, I did my capstone project on compassion fatigue and compassion satisfaction because I was interning in a mental health clinician's office, a counseling agency, and compassion fatigue is a really common problem for counselors. And what we learned is that in the research, there are several things that people can do to help prevent it by adding healthy habits into their life on a regular basis. And that will increase your compassion satisfaction. Compassion satisfaction, what that means really is the pleasure you derive from your job. So it's the opposite of compassion fatigue, and it is known the higher your compassion satisfaction goes up, the lower your compassion fatigue goes down.
Yeah. Well, I'm not going to keep fighting with it. I can't get it up right now. So, technology sometimes is so much fun.
Yeah.
So we'll make it without the slides there for you. But yeah, so good points there on that. Like you said, seek the help. If you're seeing it, make sure you do that with everything. And then what else were you saying there then?
Yeah. So with the compassion satisfaction, which is how you one of the ways that you prevent compassion fatigue, there were 4 main points that people can do that will help build resiliency. And the first one is connecting to your calling. So because being in the helping fields and being in ministry, really not everyone can do these jobs. You really have to be called to them. And when you are, there's a reason that you chose that. I mean, there's very few people that go into ministry for the money. But, it's because there's something that really was on your heart that connected you to it. And a lot of times when we're doing it every day, we can kind of get bogged down in all the details of, budgets and people and problems and staying on schedule. And we forget to take time to intentionally remember, why did we get into this? How are what we're doing impacting those people around us, and really reflecting on that. So that is number one, probably the most helpful thing you can do to help prevent compassion fatigue is to consistently remind yourself why you are where you are.
Yeah, no, that's a great reminder.
Yeah. Do you ever do that, Doc? Do you ever take time and?
I do. And for me, it happens almost on a daily basis because I get to tell people the story of about SOAR, why I do what I do. And so that just helps me reinforce it every day, why I do it. And so, for me right now with where I'm at, it's built into my job.
That's
so
great.
it helps me by being able to tell people on a daily basis why I do what I do. And I'm obviously extremely passionate about what I do, and it comes through with that. And so that makes it a whole lot easier. And for me, and no question, when you enjoy what you do, when you're passionate about what you do, life is so much easier. Even on those hard days, when I can get up and I'm excited to go to work, that's a wonderful thing. And, there have been days in my life where I've not been excited to get to work. And that includes in ministry too. There have been many days in ministry where I'm like, oh my gosh, do I really need to do this? Or it would be so nice to be able to have weekends off and be a normal person.
Right.
But I'm ecstatic about what I'm doing, and God prepared me for that and called me to missions to do this work. And so, having that reminder, absolutely, I think is a great thing.
Yeah, it is. I think you're also might be in the minority of people who remind themselves every day. I think a lot of people, when they first jump into it, they know and they're passionate, but then because ministry is hard and any career is hard, and you start getting things that don't go the way that you think they should, and it can be really easy to focus on what went wrong instead of what went right. So it's really really important to be intentional. And so things that we ask people is to sit down and just write down your mission. What is your personal mission? What is your organizational mission? And then just ask yourself, what did I do this week that reflects that? If another time, if you're starting to feel down, stop and close your eyes. Picture the face of someone that you know that the work that you did changed their life. Remind yourself, how did their lives change?
Right.
It's super important.
And I think one thing that just kind of came to mind, that I try to help everyone that works for me, everyone that volunteers for me. One of the first things I always tell everyone, and you got to see the looks I get from people when I say it. I tell them right off the bat, I give you permission to fail.
Amen.
I give you permission to fail.
Yes.
And it's for many reasons. One, we're all going to fail.
Yep.
And it's okay. It doesn't mean you're going to lose your job. It doesn't mean you can't volunteer anymore.
Right.
But knowing that I'm not going to be here, I'm not going to be upset. I'm not going to be all over you for it. But also it's because I want you to take risks sometimes.
Yes.
And, we need to take healthy risks to try to move forward and things. And sometimes if we're afraid of failing, we may not take that risk for our ministry, for our organization. And we need to be willing to do that. And so, when you as leadership can sit there and tell your people, I give you permission to fail, you completely remove that. And what I find too, that removes a portion of that compassion fatigue, because I think a portion of that compassion fatigue that comes in too is the concern, am I going to fail? Am I going to do this right? What happens if this falls apart? Oh my gosh, we have COVID going on. We only have 15, 20% of our people back. Will my ministry continue to make it with that? And we're seeing people losing jobs across the country right now. I'm not going there. I'm saying, I give you permission to fail, because we've got to find ways to make this work with that. And so I think it's just, again, and one of my key words in life is perspective. We got to change our perspective. And that's a big thing when we're talking. And I think we'll probably be getting to here in a little bit with trying to come out of the compassion fatigue. For me, it's changing the perspective.
Yeah. So definitely, anything that will take stress out of your life will help you with compassion fatigue, because you want to just have as much energy as you can for yourself and for what you're doing. You hit on a couple other things we're going to talk about next. So one of the other things that researchers found is helpful is connecting with your coworkers. So if you feel supported by your colleagues, that really helps combat compassion fatigue. And so you'll talk to people sometimes and they feel like, well, no one is like supporting me. I feel alone. You're not helpless in that. If no one is coming to you to say, how can I help you? What are you doing today? You go to them. You start by inviting them into your life and saying, how can I support you? But the better you can build your relationships at work and with your colleagues, the more supported you'll feel. And that's really one of the biggest things for compassion fatigue, is just feeling supported personally and professionally.
Right. Yeah. And that's a huge thing. And then at the same time with that, I think especially us and those of you in leadership positions, not just, supporting them, but letting them know you have an open door where, they can come and talk about anything that, and you also need to be able to control yourself when, someone tells you something. When if they're breaking bad news to you, it's not the end of the world.
Right.
Let's think through it. Let's pray through it and let's figure it out. It's life. We've got to figure that out, and we got to link arms and move together. And, everything's always better when we got a team to do it. Doing it by ourselves.
Yeah. But I mean, like you said, as a leader, it's your job to create an open culture in your organization. because you are really setting the tone for, do people feel okay to be vulnerable with the truth? Because
Right.
if they don't feel okay to be vulnerable with the truth, you can expect all the compassion fatigue to go way up, because they're going to really feel alone and stressed out.
Yeah.
The third thing that researchers found that was helpful to prevent compassion fatigue is feeling equipped to do your job well. So this is, read books on the subject that you're doing, talk to your colleagues, go to seminars, anything you can do to make yourself feel more confident helps with that. Because again, that takes stress off. If you have a problem that comes in, you say, oh, I have no idea how to handle this. Like, in disability ministry, maybe you have a child that has behavioral issues. If you look at it and feel helpless, your compassion fatigue is likely to go up.
Right.
But if you feel like, I've done this before, or I have people I can call that can walk me through it, and you have some confidence in it, that is huge to help you get through it.
Yeah. It's developing a community that you can, relate with. And, again, especially in our disability ministry,
Right.
realm, we've got so many people out here that are willing to help.
Yes.
You, along with Wonderfully Works, us here at SOAR, Key Ministry, the list goes on, where you can just pick up the phone and call, and
Right.
we're here happy to help you.
That's right.
I'd say, being prepared, especially on, the volunteer side and helping with that, training comes into place there. We have to make sure we train our volunteers and prepare them for what's there. And have that be, and not just an adequate training. We need to have, excel in that and have excellence in it, where they truly understand and they can apply what we teach them.
Yeah, training will be a whole nother talk with Doc we can have, because that's my favorite subject. But on that, there is nothing more important than training your volunteers. And just really quickly on that, when talking about perspective, I think we all have to change our perspective on training. It's not a one-day seminar. It's, you're training all the time in little bits, but that's how people learn. Yeah. And that again comes back to what you said before, with creating that organizational culture where people feel supported. So you want people to understand, you have a question, you come to me, I'll help you right then. So that's another one. And then the fourth thing that researchers found that helped with compassion fatigue was self-care. Now, of course, this is one everybody already knows about. It's also the one most people don't do well. So this is one of the things you kind of have to ask yourself, what kind of self-care works for me? When I was doing my capstone project, we actually put together an intervention for compassion fatigue to help raise your compassion satisfaction, called the 4 Points Worksheet, where we take these 4 main points and have prompts, weekly prompts for people. I'll show you real quick. Looks like this. If you want to check it out, we have them each month. We have new worksheets on our website, wonderfulworks.net, for compassion fatigue. But when we did this, we had everyone in our agency take a test. It's called the ProQual. That's professional quality of life test, and we did the compassion satisfaction portion, and it measures your job fulfillment before and after this taking these worksheets for a month. And what we found was, when it came to self-care, the people who were really good at self-care going in stayed really good, and the people who are really bad at it going in didn't improve. So you have to ask yourself, what works for me? Like, some people will say, oh, I just want to take a big long weekend, or I'm going to go to the beach, and that gives them energy. But other people will feel completely overwhelmed from having to try to plan that. So it's okay to change your perspective and say, I call it adding little bits of joy to your life, and making it smaller. Like, you have self-care in little small ways every day. So that's another thing I think is really important. Because when we talk about like accumulating stress in our lives, right? We can also accumulate joy. It really depends on what you're intentional about and what you notice.
Oh, that's so true. Yeah. Oh, that's really good. Well, awesome. So those are 4 great points, again, that we can prevent. So let me make sure I got them right, so we can recap here. We need to be able to connect with our calling, remind ourselves why we're excited to be doing what we're doing.
That's right.
And encourage everyone to, maybe write it down and just put it on your mirror, in your bathroom, where you can read that, or
get our worksheet.
There you go. Get the worksheet. Download that. And then connect with your coworkers, make sure you've got that good connection there. become equipped, and then finally the self-care,
Yeah.
taking care of yourself with all of this. I think
Yeah.
those are 4 great ways that we
Mhm.
can prevent. I all of a sudden can't talk. That we can prevent the compassion fatigue, because this is a real thing, and we don't think about it. One other thing I'll just mention real quick that a lot of people don't even realize with it. You know, our nature can speak into this.
Mhm. Oh, gosh.
So if we're introvert or if we're an extrovert, so and nobody ever believes me, but I'm an introvert by nature.
Uh-huh.
And everyone's like, yeah, right, Doc. But if you truly know me, I am. I thrive being alone or in small groups, but I can also excel in being big groups. I have no problem with that. But it's hard for an introvert to try to lead ministries and try to do these things because they're having to put themselves out in front of people and do that a lot of times. But those people right now are starting to excel because of the COVID and just the confinement and everything we've got going on.
Yeah.
And so they're seeing that switch. Meanwhile, I'm seeing all of the extroverts who previously have been doing great. They're now starting to develop more compassion fatigue because they don't have all of their people around them that they normally do, that they thrive off of.
Right.
So they're developing compassion fatigue because of their environment not quite being the same like it is, and they're not able to drive off of one another and have that all those extra people filling their tank with it. So even being aware of our environment and what's going on, I think is important there. And then like you said, then making sure that we can do something to help fill that. And granted, right now with COVID, we can't really go out and be in a group of 20, 30 people.
Well,
but we can figure things out.
We can't, but you're really setting up our next video on Wonderful Works, which is coming out on Wednesday.
Cool.
we are talking.
I'm perfect with helping.
You are so good, Doc. But we are this month, Wonderful Works, we are covering relaunching your ministry on site and online because we're all there. And the video we have coming out on Wednesday is called Turning Obstacles into Opportunities. And I really think the key to that is noticing where your obstacle is. Because if you can notice, I don't feel quite right, and you can identify what it is that is wrong or what it is in your ministry that needs changed, then there's always an opportunity in there. So you're 100% right. I know a lot of extroverts who are really struggling right now because their whole world has changed and they don't have enough people. But how can they get that? Can we do more of these online groups or Facebook groups? Or there's always something out there that's innovative that we can find a solution for. So if you feel discouraged, just ask around if someone has a good idea that works for you.
Yeah. Why don't you share real quick, since we're talking about it, how people can find that video you're talking about that's coming out on Wednesday, and as well as all your information again.
Yeah. So our website is called wonderfulworks.net. And that on it has whatever video we're launching that week, we have on our website. And we also have the compassion fatigue section that has the 4 points worksheets. Every month we will put 4 new weekly worksheets on there. I really, really encourage people to check it out, because when we did it in my agency during grad school, people loved it. I mean, it was just fun because there's nothing really hard to do. It's good stuff. It's like reminding yourself of why you love doing what you do. It's encouraging you to talk to your coworkers and wear your favorite color, dance around your favorite music. Please go get this, because it really is helpful. As far as the rest of our videos, we have in Wonderful Works a Facebook group. So if you go to Facebook and look for Wonderful Works Special Needs Ministry, you can join our group. It is for church leaders, especially children's ministry leaders and special needs ministry leaders. And really what the object is we're trying to link together people like you, Doc, with churches who want to know how to become inclusive to kids with disabilities, but have no idea how to do it.
Right.
So twice a month, we come out with training videos that are 5 to 6 minutes long. They're fun. You have to check them out. They're not like anything you've ever seen. I've heard that repeatedly. And that you can download them for free and you can show your teams. We have resources you can download. and you can become part of our discussion community where we all help each other.
Yeah. Awesome. All right. Well, we're kind of talking on some of these resources here. And you hit on a couple of the other resources, but what, outside of the wonderfullyworks.net, what other resources do we have for compassion fatigue?
Okay. A really good one is called ProQual. I think it's .com. And that is the professional quality of life. And what that is actually a test you can give yourself that will measure your level of compassion fatigue, compassion satisfaction, and burnout. You can get an average score of all those things, or that you can actually break it down and score each individually. And you can look at that. It has a lot of information on compassion fatigue, but it also kind of gives you a general idea of where are you in this? What do you really need to be doing next? So that's proqual.com.
That's PROQOL. Is it .com or .org?
Let me look here. I think it is .com. Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, you're right. It is .org.
Okay. I just want to make sure we get everyone the right place. So
yeah, we got to get these slides up.
Yeah, PROQOL.org.
Yes.
Proqual.org.
Yes, so proqual.org. And that's a highly respected test for compassion fatigue. That's a great place to go. They also have lots of resources that you can use for your team. And then there's tons of places online that have information about compassion fatigue. Compassionfatigue.org is a good place to start. And also the Figley Institute, if you Google that, they have a lot of different resources.
What was the last name again?
Figley Institute, Figley.
Figley Institute. Okay. All right. Great. Well, fantastic. Lots of great resources and a lot of information here for us to chew on and everything. I've got a message that came in through an instant message for us to kind of address. They wanted to stay anonymous with it. But it's a disability ministry leader who said, you're describing them. She feels like she has lost everything and feels like a failure because she no longer has empathy for any of her families, just with what she's dealing. And so first, my thing, you're not a failure.
No.
Get that out of your head.
Yeah.
But what can she do, right now? How can the immediate steps to take, she, kind of going on it. She said, they're threatening to close down the special needs ministry, the disability ministry. So she may be losing work. So all these things are closing in on her. She had no idea she's really experiencing the compassion fatigue until, we start talking about this. So very happy, first off, that you're listening to this. So let's see how we can help you.
Okay. The very first thing, and this is the most important thing, is realize you're not a failure. You're normal.
Amen.
I mean, I wish I could say, oh, compassion fatigue is so rare, like that nobody gets it. But if you're in the helping field, and if you're someone who really cares, like that's the reason you got into ministry, because you care, then it's normal to have some level of compassion fatigue. So know you're okay. Okay. And then the second thing you want to do is you want to ask yourself what works for you for feeling better. Like you need to get some support. Who do you have that you can talk to personally and professionally? Should you talk to your boss? Is that something you could do? Maybe reach out to some colleagues, because what she's describing right now is a lot of people. With this pandemic, a lot of people, their budgets are being reduced, and a lot of positions, especially in special needs ministry, are being cut. And so as painful as that is, it's always better to talk to other people who are going through it to help you. So I would encourage her to get into some groups. She can join Wonderful Works Facebook group, where we have ministry leaders from across the country, and she can be part of our community there. I know Key Ministry has roundtables and different, online groups. So look for that. And then if you feel like you need to get professional help, call a counselor, because compassion fatigue is real, and it can really negatively impact your life if you just keep trying to swim upstream against it.
Right. Yeah, I agree with everything you just said. And again, I'll again, highly emphasize the first one. You're
Mhm.
not a failure.
No.
With that, and
Mm-mm.
you're not failing the families. You're not
No.
doing anything. However, what I will say is you're not going to be able to help your families
Mhm.
to the best of your ability. You're not going to be able to run your ministry
Mhm.
to the best of your ability until you help yourself.
Well, that's
And
right.
so
Yeah.
that's the important thing here is learning how to help yourself
Yeah.
through this and get the help. And so, getting help is not a sign of losing anything or anything. Again, it's a win. It's showing that you realize that you need it and you'll get it. There's absolutely nothing wrong with seeking help for this.
No.
So don't put that to the side. Call out and ask
Yeah.
for it. And if you don't know where to go, you can reach out to us, and
Mhm.
we'll see if we can know where people in your areas,
Yes.
especially when it comes in the counseling realm and things. I think Key Ministry,
Mhm.
they have probably a better handle on some in certain areas, especially with Dr. Steve's connections throughout the country too. So we can definitely put you in touch with those who need it.
Yeah, I definitely do that. And then just to piggyback on that is also don't forget, take it to prayer.
Oh, amen.
Be honest with God. Sometimes I know it can be tempting to pray like we've got it all together, but most of us never do. At least I never have it all together. So be honest in that and give yourself grace. And also remember this, just talking about getting help, whether it's compassion fatigue or it's anything else, truthfully, the strongest thing any of us can ever do is be vulnerable. It's the truth.
Yeah.
And it's also, I think about this often, it's like people don't always want to talk about it that when they get help, but we should, because we need to model to other people, this is what you do. Because just like we don't want people we care about to suffer, we want them to get help if they need it. They want that for us too.
Right. Right.
So yes, get help and get connected.
All right. I got another message that came in, and this one's a little touchy, a little hard.
Okay.
After hearing today's talk, I'm convinced now that my executive pastor is experiencing compassion fatigue.
Mm-hmm.
How do I go about addressing it with him?
Whew, that was a good question. I think that really depends on your relationship with him. Um, what kind of relationship do you have with them? I think it's always about opening that door. It's just like any difficult talk that you have, is how do you open the door in a way that people feel safe? So I always like to say, when you have to have a hard talk with someone, first sit down and think about, how would I want someone to have that talk with me, and start there. So, maybe it's just coming with an air of caring and saying, like, I know this has been a hard time, for everyone in ministry. How are you doing? And then, kind of just taking some baby steps and inviting him in. What do you think?
Yeah, it's definitely hard. And this is a crucial conversation,
Mm-hmm.
without any question. And so for crucial conversations, it's important to have that. Do not put it off.
Mm-hmm.
You're not helping anybody by putting this off.
Mm-hmm.
And then the important thing in the crucial conversation is to actually have the meeting, sit down with them, and then how I handle. And there's actually a book out there called Crucial Conversations,
Mm-hmm.
which is fabulous. I recommend everyone read it. And so, and I apply what that says, and what you do basically is say, and I'll act in this situation. Hey, I've noticed over the past several weeks that you're acting a little different. I'm seeing X, Y, and Z. You're not showing as much empathy towards the staff. These are all things that I'm seeing. This, and the story I'm telling myself is that you may be experiencing some compassion fatigue. There may be some things going on, and I just want to let you know I'm here to help you. What's your story? What is going on with you? And then let them share. They may not be willing to share.
Mm-hmm.
First off, fully realizing that.
Right.
They may get mad at you for
Mm-hmm.
saying that, but hopefully you've got a good enough relationship where they will actually talk through it and actually share what's going on. But that's important to use whenever you've got even a disagreement with anyone,
Mhm.
because there's always your side and their side,
Mhm.
and then usually the truth is in the middle. But
Right.
if you approach it by saying, this is what I'm seeing and what I'm thinking, what's your experience? What are you thinking? And not saying, I know this is happening. You're saying, I think this is what's happening, or this is what I'm seeing.
Yeah.
And you speak into it. So
I
that's
think
what I would do.
I think that's true. And I would just add to that a couple of things is sometimes when you're having these really difficult conversations, because people can be sensitive sometimes,
Mhm.
it's okay to be a little vulnerable yourself. So
Right.
if there's something you feel like you can share, like maybe say, man, this has been such a hard year. And I think we're all kind of feeling it. I know I'm feeling it in this area. And then launch into it. That makes people feel safer than just
Absolutely.
saying, like, hey, I noticed you're not doing great. So kind of think about it like that. And then the other thing, and this is so important, and everyone that's watching me that knows me is going to laugh because I talk about it all the time. But the most important thing you can do in a tough conversation, no matter what it is watch your body language.
Mm.
It's because there are studies that say people respond more to how we present ourselves than to what we actually say. So they'll leave with a feeling based off of how we present ourselves. So make sure you have open body language. Watch your tone. Your face, try to be as relaxed as you can and as warm as you can. And be clear. The other thing that when you're having a tough conversation is you want to be clear. You want to be compassionate, but clear, because when people dance around an issue too much, other people can leave feeling confused, and that actually makes people feel more anxious. So be kind, have open body language, a little bit vulnerable, and be clear.
Right.
And take a chance. And if they get mad at you, it was still worth the risk.
Absolutely. 100% agree. Absolutely. So all great things. And again, our time's kind of going away. We're coming to the top of the hour. It's been a fabulous conversation here today. My prayer and hope is that people have learned about compassion fatigue, realize it's a real thing there, know that they can get help.
Yes.
And that they need to seek help and realize it. For me, like I said, I know I experienced compassion fatigue. I was able to recognize it myself. I was able to start changing things and was able to pull myself out of it without getting professional help. You don't always need professional help with it, but if it's bad enough, get it.
Yes.
Don't put it off. So that's one of the big things I want to say there. Again, the websites for you are wonderfulworks.net. That's Barb's site. A lot of great information there you can check out. There's compassionfatigue.org and then proquol.org. And that's PROQOL.org.
Yes.
So check those out. We'll put those up as well when we're doing this. But Barb, let me again thank you for being with us. But any final closing thoughts you'd like to share on the topic as we come to the top of the hour today?
Yeah, I just remind you that what you do matters and who you help matters, but you matter too. So you pay attention to how you're feeling and you invest in yourself, and just know this is hard. Helping fields are hard. Ministry is hard. Being a pastor is hard. And it's okay to struggle in it sometimes. And you are not alone at all. So reach out, get connected, take it to God, take it to your colleagues, to your friends, and reach out to us. We'll help you. And just know it can get better.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And kind of piggybacking on that, we're here to help you. Barb is, Wonderfully Works, SOAR, and our whole team is here. So don't think you have to do this all on your own. Reach out if you got any other questions. Let us know what's going on. We've got a lot of other great things coming up. One thing I want to let you all know about some of our upcoming talks. Next week, we've got our Wonderfully Made VIP series continuing, and my intern Elizabeth Barnett is going to be talking. She's actually going to be doing a talk which I think is going to be key for any disability ministry right now, and that is how to do self-funded internships, especially as all of our ministries are being cut. We may not be able to hire interns. Doing a self-funded internship. She's doing a 15-month internship for us at SOAR, and it's completely self-funded. We're doing interns with us all summer. They're all going to be self-funded. It works. It's hard, but we've cracked the code on it, and it's an amazing thing to look at, and just another way you can look at being able to do ministry. So make sure you do that. If you're not part of Wonderfully Made yet, you can still be a part of that. Go to Wonderfully Made KC, just the initials KC.com, and we'll get you all taken care of there. Again, that'll be next Tuesday at noon Central Time. Other things, our next Talk with Doc is going to be in 2 weeks. We're taking a break again next week. I've got some important meetings I had to do. But in 2 weeks, Jocelyn Ramos Campbell is going to be joining us. And we are going to be talking on how to use social media to grow your disability ministry. And so especially now where, we're doing all these hybrid models, we need to really make sure we're using our social media and using it well. And that's, that's Facebook, that's Twitter, it's Instagram, it's also YouTube. And we can't forget simple things like Pinterest, as well. All these are out there. Jocelyn is going to be sharing some great things for us on what to do. We've been using it a lot with SOAR and really connecting with people, honestly, all over the world with it. So we can definitely be using our social media. So make sure you get in on that. We'll have the links up for that this afternoon to be able to do that. If we would love to invite you to partner with us, if you're enjoying these talks, we hope you can partner with us. Maybe you can help us out financially. You could go to soarspecialneeds.org/donate and help partner with us so we can continue to be doing these talks. But Barb, thank you again so much for being with us today, talking on such an important subject as we did, compassion fatigue. And again, my prayer is anyone listening to this, if you need help, go get the help. Check out these sites that we've shared with you. Realize you're not alone when you're doing all this, and it's okay with it, and it's just part of life. But let's find things that can fill our tank. Let's find things where we can be our best and get this compassion fatigue behind us. And one of the biggest battles is knowing it's there, being aware of it. That's right. And once we know that, we can start fighting it. So right. Barb, thanks so much. Thank you. Everyone, we'll see you in 2 weeks. You all have a blessed day.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.